I would say basically it's the story of a Catholic priest who became a priest despite not having much to thank the Catholic Church for. He was actually abused as a boy. And because of his experiences within the Catholic Church, he couldn't relate to women. So he's treated them very badly in his teens and got the calling for the priesthood in his extremely late teens or even early 20s. And so has become a priest and looks back upon that period of his life with huge regret and is starting to get flashbacks both to that period and to his own childhood. And yet, despite all that, is a good priest, functioning and caring and compassionate. The fact that it is about faith and etc. means people can constantly speak from the heart. Other things as well, you'll get people going to this priest at times of distress, despair, joy sometimes, but always at peak moments in their lives. That's when you need the church, at moments of grief and sadness and joy, the birth of a child, the confirmation, the baptism of a child. So it lends itself to drama really well. I wouldn't say it's got similar themes to it, It's a Wonderful Life, but it became my inspiration because there comes a point in the drama when the priest asks himself, has my life been a waste of time? Has my faith, has my priesthood been irrelevant to the concerns of people alive today? Many people would say faith is irrelevant today. And he asks himself this question, and he gets that answer, he gets it answered right at the very end. And a similar thing, that's all I'll lay claim to. We're not claiming to be anywhere near the standard of It's a Wonderful Life, which is one of the best movies ever made. We're not making that claim. But a similar thing happens in It's a Wonderful Life when James Stewart thinks his life has been a waste. And he is shown what other people's lives would have been had he not lived. So it's, that's the comparison I make, you know. I worked with other writers, Sean Duggan, Colette Kane and Nick Leather, who's a Catholic, as is Sean. And we just, the hardest thing was coming up with the ideas for the stories, you know, as always. But once we got that, there wasn't a great deal of research after that, you know. I was always going to do 3, episodes 1, 2 and 6, and the other writers were going to do the 3rd, the 4th and the 5th. So we just farmed them out that way. Then they went away and wrote them, and rewrote them, and then I rewrote them. So they went through many drafts. In the old days, I started off when there was BBC producers galore, and these producers had strong relationships with the individual writers. So when they commissioned a drama, say they worked with Charles Jones, that producer would aim to make that script the very best that Charles Jones could possibly do, and would take it no further than that because he valued his relationship with Charles Jones. But our attitude is, your responsibility is to the script, to the story, not to the writer. And you don't stop until that story is the best it could ever be. Not the best that Charles Jones could make it, but the best that any writer could possibly make it. And that's what we aim to do. We never get there, of course. The script could always be better, but that's what we aim to do. And that we owe a debt to the script and the story, not to the writer. You know? You get characters like Sean Bean, actors like Sean Bean. You put the camera on his face, and it tells a million stories. You know, he has great humanity, and he can act. You know, so yes, we wanted him, but I didn't think we'd get him. So I'd written Story of the Week, episodes 1, episode 2, episode 3, 6. We were going to do 6 stories of the week. But when we got Sean Bean, we then had to concentrate on the character of Father Michael Kerrigan, and make him the main focus, you know. So that entailed quite a few big rewrites, you know. And so consequently, you'll see, instead of story of the week, we have stories coming and going, you know. I think it's important. In the British working class, there's always a history of that, a noble tradition of passing on what skills you have. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than sitting down with you know, an unformed writer with an unformed story and bashing it about and making it good, you know. I think if any writer's watching this, they should consider submitting an idea for our afternoon drama series, which is it's called Moving On, and we'll always take a chance with writers. The most important thing in British drama, in any drama, is the story. So if you give me a story and you've got no experience whatsoever, and I like the story, I'll work with you. I would sooner take a really good story from an untrained writer than a bad story from a wonderful writer. You know what helps enormously? Insomnia. You know, to lie awake at 4 in the morning and not have anything. You haven't got to go out to work in a factory or on a building site. You know, you're lying in bed, cold winter's morning, you're nice and warm in bed, 4 o'clock, half 4 in the morning, and you're thinking about the story you're trying to write. And you just go in and out of sleep, and the next you wake up at 5:30, you think about the story. I think those hours of just lying in bed thinking about your story, I think they're precious. I would value them, you know. And if you're not thinking about your story when you wake up, you should ask yourself questions whether you're writing the right story or not. You are your character's ideal barrister. So if that character's only got a 2-page scene, when you write it, you are that character's ideal barrister. You will fight for that character, you know. I think that's a good way of approaching it.